Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP TV. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Angus and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you try their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, of course, the king of all, those massive cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best in the business, in my opinion, Wagyu Prime burgers as well. Again, UppercutChops.com. Check them out at UppercutChops.com or give them a call and find out what's for dinner at 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935 for UppercutChops.com. And a big welcome in to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast, from Honolulu all the way down to Southwest Florida, a bunch of points in between. And welcome in to everybody on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Time Warner, and WOW Cable Television, plus Hotel TV from coast to coast as well, and over 600,000 rooms, gaining about 4 million impressions per hour. Unbelievable. You know what else is impressive? Is the debacle that college football has turned into, and its collateral damage. Now, we'll get to the collateral damage in just a moment. Actually, it's going to be a bit, so just sit back and grab some popcorn and grab your favorite beverage, because listen to this. Arizona State University. Oh, yeah. Those guys and those ladies. Arizona State to self-impose a bowl ban on the football program in light of the NCAA probe. Ah, yeah. And you know, we here at the Sports Circus had a little bit of insight on this just a couple of years ago, maybe a little bit more, when certain things were happening. We knew somebody that was with that university and their staff, and they fled to another institution. Just in the nick of time, if you will. Unfortunately, well, some of those people that were in the middle of all that mayhem, well, some have escaped, but some did not escape. So, Arizona State will self-impose that one-year postseason ban and veto bowl game participation for the upcoming season amid an ongoing NCAA investigation into allegations and alleged infractions that took place under former coach, yes, Herm Edwards. Now, this is according to multiple sources. Pick your favorite source, you can find it, but there's all kinds of them cited here too. Now, Athletic Director Ray Anderson said in a statement, quote, Arizona State University has informed the NCAA and Pac-12 conference that it will self-impose a one-year postseason ban on its football program for the upcoming season in light of the ongoing investigation and our membership obligation to maintain the confidentiality of the matter. We will not be commenting further at this time. Of course not. Probably because they don't even know what to say. Now the four-letter network stepped in, and of course they said the program recently informed its athletes of the decision. Now how is that? We'll get back to that. Nonetheless, it was reportedly, quote, devastating, close quote, news for the player, especially to the 20 seniors. Arizona State has been under investigation from the NCAA since June of 2021, and a dossier of documents sent to the program at the time included more than a dozen allegations and specifically named 10 Arizona State, quote, individual staff members to investigate, close quote. Now, Edwards was accused of hosting recruits on campus during the NCAA dead period that took place because of the so-called COVID-19 pandemic. Former defensive coordinator Antonio Pierce, who also served as the ASU recruiting coordinator, was accused of helping create a culture that rewarded those violations.
Show me the money!
Yeah, maybe a little bit of that. The investigation led to 5 full-time coaches leaving the staff or being fired, including Pierce and former offensive coordinator Zach Hill. plus somebody else that I think I may know. Because of the investigation, some expected Edwards to resign after the 2021 season. Good old Herm, nope, but he didn't get out until 3 games into the 2022 season under a, quote, mutual agreement, close quote. Now, he returned to his role, of course, at the Four Letter Network as an analyst not too terribly long after. And, of course, a job that he started way back in 2009. He left the broadcast position when he was hired to lead the Sun Devils in 2018. Now, according to The Athletic, Arizona State has yet to hear from the NCAA regarding the alleged violations that occurred under Herm Edwards. So, I believe when you look at this, you say, well, wait a minute, why did they self-impose a bowl ban? Well, because A, they knew it was coming, but they self-imposed a 1-season postseason ban for a couple of reasons. First of all, they knew they were going to get in trouble. They know what's coming. It's not going to be pretty. Oh, by the way, with all the chaos going on in the Pac-12 conference, the almost no more Pac-12, I think it's like the Pac-4 now. Nonetheless, teams are migrating away and away. We're going to get to that in a moment. The reality is, so they get a 1-season postseason ban on themselves, and then when they enter into the Big 12 conference along with University of Arizona and Utah plus Colorado, well, maybe they'll have a clean slate. But ultimately, all of this reeks. Arizona State has been doing things, in my opinion, crookedly for quite some time with dubious academics, and unfortunately, all of this stuff's kind of catching up. And so Arizona State, like other schools, is starting to feel a little bit of pinch. But now getting back to this Pac-12 thing, the Pac-12 is actually crumbling. It's turning into a wasteland of once great conference participants. That was the alleged Conference of Champions. Well, guess what? That's going to have to go in the history books that way. As of a particular date, they'll have to have a start date and an end date on that one. But now as the dust settles from the shrinking of the Pac-12, details have emerged that imply that Fox and its media rights money was the deciding factor in Washington and Oregon following USC and UCLA into the Big Ten.
Show me the money!
And Washington and Oregon jumping gave way to Utah, Arizona, Arizona State, joining Colorado in the Big 12, effectively killing the Pac-12. Now, the chair of the Pac-12 Board of Directors is Washington State's Kirk Schultz. He said in a recent interview that Fox pushed for Washington and Oregon to join the Big Ten in an effort to prevent the Pac-12 from signing a deal with Apple. Of course, Apple's been shopping around for more live sports and the rights and had to believe to be a frontrunner to partner with the remaining schools of the Pac-12. But Schultz felt like Fox didn't want that competition. In fact, he said, quote, "We've got a couple of networks that are making the real decisions about who goes where based on the dollars that they want to pour into it. I do think if I was Fox and ESPN, I'm not sure I want Apple in the marketplace, frankly. I don't want somebody with pockets that are that deep as a rival if I can afford it." Close quote. But as the value in major college football continues to skyrocket, evidence of the greed driving business decisions in the sport becomes clear. Schultz felt like whoever controls the money controls the power. In fact, he said, quote, "The more you pull competition out of the marketplace, the easier it becomes for some of those funders to really call the shots." Close quote. With the collapse of the Pac-12 at this point, where do the rest of the schools go? What is happening to academia? What is happening to the value of an education versus sports money? Primarily football money. Not basketball money, not baseball, not field hockey, not soccer, not gymnastics. Oh no, not academic prizes, but no, football. Football is driving this. And it gets a lot worse as the discussion gets a little bit deeper. As a matter of fact, in the next segment, I'm going to take a look at the Mountain West Conference and the ACC and what their role could be for or with or against the remaining schools within the Pac-12 conference. So, Cody, where lots more to come here on the Sports Circus. Back in a few minutes.
Business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935. Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UppercutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UppercutChops.com.
You're listening to the Sports Circus, and I'm Mike Golick.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP TV. This segment brought to you in part by the Sports Circus. Make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guests, our prior guests, our recorded shows, which are a podcast. They can be heard in their entirety on pick your favorite podcast platform. Also, while you're at thesportscircus.com, check out our upcoming guests. Wait till you see some of those musical and film guests as well as athletes. We have all kinds of guests on here, but also go to the partners page. Check out some of those partners. One of those is the College of Southern Nevada. In fact, College of Southern Nevada Athletics. CSNCoyotes.com. Check them out for upcoming games and events. That's CSNCoyotes.com for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Probably academically better than any other institution here in Southern Nevada. In fact, I feel quite confident saying that just because I can. Nonetheless, check them out at CSNCoyotes.com. That's the athletic department. They've been doing a great job and a longtime partner of the Sports Circus. All right. So last segment, it was touching upon the demise of the Pac-12 conference, which is, I can't say it's unimaginable, but when the Conference of Champions has broken apart, You ask yourself, well, what's next? Not really sure what's next. Well, guess what? Maybe the Mountain West and the ACC might know what's next because they ramp up their courtship of Oregon State and Washington State with, of course, a little bit of influence. Now, the Mountain West and the American, it's not the ACC, but it's the AAC, the American Athletic Conference. Now, the Mountain West and the AAC are revving up their expansion engines. Now, commissioners of those leagues, Gloria Navarez of the Mountain West and Mike Oresco of the AAC, will deliver expansion presentations in the coming days to officials from Washington State and Oregon State. Reliable sources, of course, have told us this, and the first serious step in the two conferences' courtship of the Pac-12 remnants. Boy, have the mighty fallen. And of course, the academic standards for these institutions, well, let's put it this way. They would be technically going to institutions or joining institutions that may be a touch beneath them. Nonetheless, the Mountain West and the AAC pursuit of the Cougars and Beavers is accelerating as ACC discussions with Stanford and Cal intensify. There's a big difference between those academics of the ACC versus the AAC. Now, of course, left homeless when the Pac-12 broke apart earlier this month, Oregon State and Washington State now find themselves in the midst of a conference tussle for their services, the latest two dominoes in the most significant realignment wave in the industry's history. Now, Navarez, as I mentioned, she's from the Mountain West Conference, and Oresco from the AAC. Navarez, in her first year as Mountain West Commissioner and herself as a former Pac-12 Conference Administrator, made her first presentation recently, appearing in person before a Washington State Expansion Advisory Committee led by Washington State President Kurt Schultz. She is expected to present to Oregon State officials very soon. Oresco, a former television executive in his 12th year as the commissioner, will soon present virtually in separate meetings with Washington State and Oregon State administrators. Each commissioner will detail his and her league strengths. No decision or commitments from the schools are expected, as both continue to wait for a final resolution to Stanford and Cal's pursuit of ACC membership, something expected very, very soon. Now, the Atlantic Coast Conference, their decision will impact the future and existence of the Pac-12 Conference itself. Without Stanford and Cal, Oregon State and Washington State have limited options. The thought of rebuilding the conference already is a very, very large hurdle. And it's made even more difficult without a brand like Stanford. And Stanford, of course, being a very strong academic draw. Now, it leaves the two schools drifting afloat without a home or a television contract beyond this coming June. The Mountain West and the AAC are actively entertaining their additions. While residing in remote small markets, Oregon State and Washington State yet remain attractive. For one, they bring Power 5 resources and potentially additional value in future television deals. In an expanded 12-team playoff, the group of 5 is guaranteed at least one automatic qualifying spot. The two additions are also seen as a way to bolster each conference's college football playoff chances. And of course, that system is going to be changing soon as well. Now, since the Pac-12 breakup recently, administrators from the two schools have communicated with officials in the Mountain West and AAC. Conversations within the Mountain West have mostly centered on two options: simply acquiring Oregon State and Washington State under the Mountain West umbrella and dissolving the Pac-12, or a full merger with the two schools under the Pac-12 banner in an effort to preserve the brand. We'll get back to that one in a minute. A merger is a mere complication and a very complicated endeavor, but it could bring with it Pac-12 cash as well as Pac-12 problems. Now, the league has millions coming in through the NCAA's basketball tournament revenues. Each conference receives NCAA tournament monetary units based on how many games a team from that league advances into the event. It's a rolling 6-year system, meaning that the Pac-12 has units of pay coming from teams, even those leaving, that played in the last 6 tournaments. So, a source with knowledge estimated that the total amount for the conference to be roughly $10 to $15 million per year, but there are legal questions on the distribution of money earned from the departing schools. There are plenty of problems. The conference is without a television contract, first and foremost, and it's saddled with legal issues, of course, including the National Labor Relations Board employment claim, lawsuits from the Holiday Bowl, and 2 former employees, and more than $50 million owed to Comcast for an accounting error. Yes, an accounting error. Now, a rebuilt Pac-12 will almost certainly lose two designations, one from the NCAA and one from the College Football Playoff. The autonomous 5 governance states or status that grants more authoritative powers in rulemaking, and 2, the Power 5 status with the CFP that grants those leagues more revenue in the playoff distribution model. Again, the model is going to be changed, so there's a lot going on here. While geographically a merger or entrance into the Mountain West is more sensible, the American offers a potentially more lucrative package through its partnerships with the 4-letter network. The American Athletic Conference teams earn an average of about $8 to $9 million in annual distribution. In their deal with CBS Sports Network and Fox, Mountain West Conference teams earn about $5 to $6 million. So it looks like that's the better deal, of course, in the AAC, only money-wise right now. Now, the Americans' TV contract runs through the 2031 and 32 academic year. There's a key word, academic. The Mountain West TV deal ends after the 25-26 season. TV contracts are primary money sources for schools. All right, so, what's going to happen with that money? In either scenario, Oregon State and Washington State stands to lose more than $20 million in annual TV revenues because of the Pac-12's breakup. For the 2 schools, time is precious, and they have likely scheduled just 6 football games next season. 3 non-conference, 1 against the other, presumably, and 1 each against Stanford and Cal. So, since the Pac-12's breakup, the 4 remaining Pac-12 schools have occasionally met while Stanford and Cal pursue the ACC and Big Ten membership. I believe the Big Ten is more the likely landing spot for those schools. Washington State and Oregon State steered conversations towards rebuilding the league by adding American and Mountain West programs. The NCAA requires 8 members to be recognized as an FBS conference, but there is a grace period of 2 years. According to the NCAA bylaws 20.02.9.2, a conference shall continue to be considered an FBS league for 2 years after it drops below the 18 threshold. Uncommitted to such a rebuilding plan, the Cardinal and Bears continue to look elsewhere, even proposing to take a significantly reduced share from the ACC, a change that has intensified talks in the conference about seriously adding the 2 schools as well as Southern Methodist University. So the bigger question is this an academic play? Is it a sports play? Or is it just a money play? Sadly, some of America's finest universities are giving in to TV contract and sports money, rather than what the universities represent or supposed to represent in the first place, which are what? Academics. Nope, they're putting athletics above everything, all under agendas. That's it. It's all about sports money through TV contracts. Yes, the system is cracked. I wouldn't say it's broken just yet, but it's cracking like Frankenstein's head. Back here in a few minutes on the circus, folks. Don't go anywhere. I'm your Ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
If you're tired of the fake news and tired of all the left-wing BS and agendas out there, if you want to do your right part to clean out the swamps and hit the lefties where it hurts, their pocketbook, we all know the president and his cronies hired thousands more IRS employees and agents. Now that's not very American. There's a way to fight back. Fellow conservatives out there, call American Tax Relief. They can help you pay less to the IRS. Don't you give a penny more to spend to the left-wing agendas. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes or haven't filed your taxes in years, call my friends at American Tax Relief. They'll give you a 100% free introduction to their program, and trust me, they're on the right side of your freedom. Pay the IRS less. Call now.
800-958-2157. 800-958-2157. That's 800-958-2157. Paid for by the Tax Doctor.
The old way of living with diabetes is a pain. You've got to remember to do your testing and always need to stick your fingers to test your blood sugar. The new way to live your life with diabetes is with a continuous glucose monitor. Apply a discrete sensor on your body, and it continuously monitors your glucose levels, helping you spend more time in range and freeing you from painful finger sticks. If you are living with type 1 or type 2 diabetes and you use insulin or have had hypoglycemic events, you might be eligible for a CGM through your insurance benefits. U.S. Med partners with over 500 private insurance companies and Medicare. We offer free shipping, 90-day supplies, and we bill your insurance. Call us today for a free benefits check.
800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. That's 800-659-7805.
That's ridiculous.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey everybody, this is Barry Katz from the Industry Standard Podcast, and you're listening to the Sports Circus with Sal Tuzzolino.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP TV. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the American Business Trust Company, helping companies with strategy, sales and marketing, capital resources, and establishing companies with physical locations or on the internet. You decide. For more information, contact the American Business Trust Company at 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935, or email them at info@abtrustco.com. That's info@abtrustco.com. All right, welcome back to everybody. You know who you are. TV, radio, streaming, social media. Thanks for joining us. Leaving off on the Oregon State, Washington State, Stanford, and Cal potential migration to, well, different conferences. So let's talk a little bit about Oregon State and Washington State as if, let's just say they move conferences. And let's say they consider, and here's what I want you to pay attention to in the name, the American Athletic Conference, the AAC. All right? There's that and the Mountain West. They're both courting Oregon State, and Washington State. So let's take a look at who do we have in the AAC at this point. Well, looks like we've got Tulsa, North Texas, SMU, who probably won't be there long, University of Texas San Antonio, Rice, Tulane, Memphis, Alabama, Birmingham, South Florida, Florida Atlantic, East Carolina, and Charlotte and Temple. Now, when we think about the academic side of this, we ask ourselves, well, wait a minute. What is the fit for these schools, first and foremost? The class, the academic class of this conference, head and shoulders above everybody, is Rice. In the same way that Stanford is in the Pac-12, closely followed by Berkeley. And, of course, USC and UCLA, right? Good schools. Washington, University of Washington, arguably the best public university in America. So they had some really good schools there. Now, taking a look at the AAC, Rice is one of those, but they're private, of course, like Stanford. Rice, a very, very good university. And so you say, wait a minute, who else is a fit in this grand scheme of things? Looking up and down the roster, Temple's not a bad fit. I mean, academically, they're pretty good. Everybody else, highly questionable. Florida Atlantic, South Florida. I can tell you this as a college recruiter. East Carolina, Charlotte, Memphis, Tulsa, North Texas. SMU will be leaving the conference. They're another good academic institution. But you have to ask yourself, why would Rice stick around when Rice actually should be in the Big 12? They really should. Academically, that's where they belong. They are certainly a cut above this conference. So why Washington State and Oregon? So Washington State, academically, is probably on par with, I would say, Tulane. Oregon State, about the same thing. Are they on par with South Florida? No, they're above South Florida. They're above, in my opinion, above the others. Maybe they're on par with Temple. So this is a money play, not an academic play, because academically, these schools, albeit at the bottom of the Pac-12 with Arizona State, well, let's face it, I guess they have to find a home where they can make money because it seems like they certainly don't give a damn about the academics. Now, if you say, well, wait a minute, we have another conference, we have another participant or somebody else or another organization that wants to take them, and that would be what? It would be the Mountain West Conference. So we ask ourselves about the Mountain West Conference, well, is that a better fit? I mean, geographically, it's a better fit. Financially speaking, maybe not a better fit. Academically speaking, well, let's take a look at the universities. You've got some value, you've got your great value, of course, in Air Force, which is head and shoulders above everybody. You have a very dubious group of universities with very low, in my opinion, academic standards, such as University of Nevada, Las Vegas, in my opinion, one of the worst schools in America, Fresno State, San Diego State, maybe San Jose State's a touch above them, along with New Mexico, Boise State's somewhere in the middle of the pack, but the bigger problem is these universities, although geographically really good fits for the Oregon State and Washington State universities, are they good academic fits? I don't know, because it would seem to me that the academic recruiting is going to go down now that they would, in this case, be a member of the Mountain West Conference, because those schools collectively don't get the kind of, well, they just don't get the applicants. Those are outlet schools. And as an academic recruiter, I can say that. So do you think, for example, that Stanford would ever be a good match in the Mountain West Conference if they were to migrate, ironically or potentially? Absolutely not. And here's the hard facts. So let's just compare a flag university as San Diego State, who wanted to go to the Pac-12, and they were really trying to get themselves a slot as soon as there was an announcement of USC and UCLA leaving for the Big Ten. So was San Diego State a good fit for the Pac-12. Why are we doing this exercise? Because we can, first of all. And secondly, we want to make sure that you, the listener, knows that there is a drastic difference between participants or universities that participate in each conference. So let's compare Stanford and San Diego State just because we can. They thought they belonged in the Pac-12. Academically speaking, Stanford's ranked in the top 3 national universities in America. Well, San Diego State ranked as the 97th, which I think is a very lofty rating, but we'll just give it that. In California, let's just say alone, California, Stanford's ranked number 1. San Diego State is ranked number 26. That's crazy. And of course, Stanford being ranked in the top 5 in the world, and San Diego State is not on the map. And so, yes, Stanford's more expensive, a lot more expensive. Their success rate is a lot higher. The minimum or the average ACT score to get in to Stanford is a 35 out of 36. Test scores for San Diego State? Guess what, folks? Apparently, you don't need one. Oh yeah, nice round of applause for San Diego State. The acceptance rate is almost 3% at Stanford versus almost 100% over at San Diego State. San Diego State is over twice the size. And unfortunately, when we think of graduation rates, Stanford at 96%. San Diego State is lower than 75%. Yes, retention rate is pretty high at both. People love to go to San Diego. It's a great place. Both above 90%. But reality is this. Yes, tuition's higher, but placement is higher. Why are we comparing those two universities? Number one, because we can. And now you have to ask yourself, well, shouldn't we be, maybe even comparing Washington State with San Diego State? We could try that. And as we try that, we say, well, all right, here, let's go Washington State. Let's try Washington State University, all right? And let's compare them with San Diego State, just because we can, right? San Diego State. All right, so there's the comparison. Now, is Washington State a good match for a flagged school that wanted to come to the Pac-12, being San Diego State? All right. Well, Washington State has a national ranking lower, believe it or not, than San Diego State. So, there's your first clue. Now, we think about which one is harder, which one's easier to get into. Washington State appears to be a little bit easier to get into. The yield rate is better at Washington State, basically the enrollment rate. So a lot of people get accepted, but who's actually going to enroll, right? And then we think about smaller and bigger schools. Washington State's a little bit smaller, But we think of completion and outcome. Graduation rates are higher at San Diego State. And there's a lot of pressure on those students because they're in San Diego. Maybe if we put in a different school in the Mountain West, it'd be a little bit different. Why are we going through this? Because who's a good fit to go where, right? We use San Diego State because they were supposed to be, allegedly, a front runner of a school to go into the Pac-12. But they can't qualify. They couldn't qualify academically. They don't even have the athletic facilities that a Pac-12 school does, even though they're right in the heart of San Diego, one of America's finest cities. Unfortunately, they didn't qualify. So, and I'm going through this because do you actually think that the NCAA is going to allow the Mountain West Conference to take over the Pac-12? In my opinion, absolutely not, because there are standards. Remember, there are academic standards that must be maintained for the conference. It's not just athletics, people. Everybody thinks this is about, football. Yeah, football's a big driver. But what are these universities? They're universities. They're not pro sports teams. Remember that. We're going to be back in a few minutes on the Sports Circus. Maybe we're going to shift a little bit. Who the hell knows? Don't go anywhere. You'll find out soon. Back in a few.
ballpark, friends. High pop fly. That would be a home run in a phone booth. I don't know what the big deal about Cracker Jack is. Did you ever go and buy a pack of Cracker Jack thinking you're going to get a prize and find no prize in the box? Here's the pitch. That might not sound important to some people, but when you're a little kid, especially from humble origin, and they cheat you out of a prize, there's a bouncing ball. Second baseman has the Barbary over the first. It's hard to think in laudatory terms of the product.
I think if there was an occasional box of Cracker Jacks that found no prizes for the little Harry Carey many years ago.
You got that right. And boy, when a box of Cracker Jack to me meant a lot of money. Here's a pitch, bounce foul. That's the most asinine marketing I've ever heard of. 1 ball, 1 strike. These guys say, well, you sing about Cracker Jack. I said, I only sing it because it's in the song. Here's a pitch foul back. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised, even to this day, some youngsters who buy a box of Cracker Jack don't find a prize in the box. 1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 out. Well, if you're going to talk about a congressman being crooked, here's a pitch foul out of play. Why not talk about commercial products that don't do what they represent to do?
There's a smash to Squires. He's got it. 1, 2, 3, nothing across. We're going to the bottom of the 7th now to score. All tied up. Milwaukee 4, the White Sox 4. Hey! Everybody! All right, Nancy, let me hear you. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I ever get back for its root for the White Sox. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
There's a drive. Way back. It might be. It could be. And holy cow. This crowd is wild.
Hey, this is Tommy John, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP TV. Again, folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guests. Our prior guest, got some great guests coming up. And also, check out our partners on the partners page as well. Lots of partners over there. And welcome back to everybody that's streaming on pick your favorite social media platform, as well as our CBS, NBC, Fox, and independent affiliates from coast to coast. And Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Time Warner, and WOW Cable TV and Hotel TV in over 500,000 markets from, actually, 500,000 rooms from coast to coast in all Nielsen-rated markets across America. All right, so sticking with college football, just because we can, let's just make this a college football show for the most part. How about this? One writer from Yahoo, to be nameless, says, with college sports more in flux than ever before, new players association group emerges? That's an interesting reading. Now, Amid the wave of conference realignment that rocked college sports recently, a thought came across somebody's mind. What do athletes think? Despite a few softball players from Washington and Oregon publicly criticizing their school's move to the Big Ten, few athletes' voices were heard. Now, of course, if this is the era of college athletes' rights, this person says, there exists a missing piece, a central hub for athletes to communicate, collaborate, and even vote on important issues. I agree with that. Yet that may be about to change. So somebody says, there's this individual who is an alleged power player in college sports who founded the NIL marketplace, is partnering with recently retired, I won't say who it is, a recently retired NFL pro in creating an organization, allegedly a free membership organization open to all college athletes. And of course, this abbreviation I'm not going to get into. I'm not going to give them any free pub. But anyway, this organization is structured in a similar way to a players' association. Members are able to join chapters with the organization based on the sport and conference in which they participate. Now, of course, using a phone app, this organization gives members, their member athletes, a place to discuss and even vote on key issues while providing on-demand support through an array of experts in the legal and medical field. Using the uniform and collective voice of athletes, this particular group will advocate for improvements such as medical coverage and scholarship protections. Sounds to me like they're trying to elbow their way into money. Nonetheless, here's a quote from one of their organizers. There are a lot of things happening in college sports. NIL and the transfer portal are only the beginning of where we are headed. There have been associations for the colleges, coaches, and even athletic directors for a long time. It's a time where athletes need to finally have their own association, close quote. So that is an organizer, somebody looking to collect what? Dues. Sound familiar? That's right. Nonetheless, in the most revolutionary area of college sports, athletes hold more power, influence, and money than they've ever possessed previously. Pressures from the public, state lawmakers, and the courts have toppled many of the NCAA's amateurism foundations, bringing sweeping pro-athlete changes to the industry. Sounds like a slanted statement to me, Mr. Writer from Yahoo. Nonetheless, a player association and its potential power to collectively bargain is seen by many as a solution to the problem emerging from an unruly system of NIL state laws. Now, I think that's a bunch of nonsense. All that is one organization advocating to make money through an association in which they can collect millions and millions and millions of dollars in TV money. That is what it looks like to me. But then again, what do I know? So, one of those organizers had said, what we're going to do for athletes is not only give them a place for a unified voice, but to create a community. Knowledge, access, and protection stems from a lack of conversation, a lack of staying connected. It's 2023. It's time somebody created a solution, is what this person said. So, close quote, by the way. This organization, oh boy, conveniently has their 501c3 nonprofit funded by a group of strategic partners, said one of the organizers. And he declined to reveal any of the partners aside from one that we will not mention here. It's a media network covering college sports and specializing in NIL activity. For now, this organization employs an 8-person staff with plans to grow more. You know why they're going to grow? Because they're going to get free money. That's why. And they're going to scare people into joining this. Oh, you have to do it. Otherwise, you're going to be left behind or some crap like that. So, however, the organization has one retainer, dozens of experts to assist athletes, including pro bono attorneys, accountants, and doctors. Athletes can access such tools from a directory in the app. Oh, how convenient. Oh, we have it built into the app. The organization provides a form of NIL protection. Really? This is what the article says, the article writer says. Okay, so this form of NIL protection for athletes, as well as with a verified registry that certifies NIL agents and school collectives, all of which can be found in the app. Really? That's convenient. From a collaborative perspective, is what they say, the company plans to create an athlete ambassador program for different sports.
Show me the money!
Ambassadors will act as leaders in debate and discussion. Player ambassadors are expected to be announced very soon. How convenient. Time to get money. They want to take some of that NIL money from those athletes. College athletes aren't the only ones who can be involved, according to this organization. High school prospects, gee, how convenient. They're going below the 18 years of age line, but that means their guardian or their parents have to sign off on it. Oh, yeah. Of course, those prospects who have a committed or have a scholarship offer letter can join. Why? Because that means they've got money coming. So, quote, it's important that the perspective of a college athlete is included in a lot of the key decisions that are being made in the future structure of college sports, says this individual, one of the organizers of this organization. He goes on to say, do they want to be employees or not? Do they want to have their school realigned to another conference geographically far away? Close quote. Shut up. As with many startups, its leaders are spreading the word, of course. Now, this individual, actually the two individuals, are launching very soon a media blitz in New York. Gee, go figure. How about some fake news over there? With appearances on particular networks that we will not mention because they're contributing to the delinquency or the demise of these student athletes. Remember, they're student athletes, not athlete students. Now, in an exclusive interview, Yahoo Sports said to this organizer of this organization had made clear that this organization is not a union and has no such plans of unionization. Really? It's not what it sounds like. The organization is meant to work collaboratively with college administrators and the leaders for the betterment of the industry. Yes, for the betterment of the industry. Yeah, right. So this particular organizer had said, quote, as you know, unionization has been attempted before at the college sports level, and it's very difficult. Athletes aren't employees. Even if they are employees, a lot of them would be employees of state and public institutions with state laws that would prevent unionization from happening. So this particular organization is the best thing for the entire industry. This is not an us versus them situation between college athletes and the school's administration and the conferences. That's not what this is. Close quote. Now, similar movements have unfolded in the past, recently. About 7-8 years ago, Northwestern football players petitioned the National Labor Relations Board to seek to form a union. By unanimous decision, the board denied their claim that they are university employees and should be allowed to collective bargain. No, they cannot collectively bargain because they are not employees. They're student athletes! In many respects, player associations in college exist today. So one individual presides over the National College Player Association, based, of course, where? In California, home of the quick and easy money. And Jason Stoll leads the College Football Player Association in Minnesota. The two entities have varied degrees of success in similar pursuits, achieving more rights for athletes. So be it. So last summer, quarterback Sean Clifford, in conjunction with leaders from the College Football Player Association, led a movement at Penn State that ended after school and Big Ten administrators learned of the issue. Oh, you're doing things behind our back, and we can't collect, so it's not going to happen. Clifford released a statement recently heralding this particular organization as bringing a player association to the industry that is a long time coming. Shut up. Over the last several years, an organization has spearheaded a legislative and legal effort to pursue more rights for athletes. In a resounding win for that organization, the National Labor Relations Board announced earlier this year that it is pursuing charges against the NCAA, Pac-12, and USC for unfair labor practices, an ordeal that many expect to end with athletes ruled as employees of the universities. And of course, a court case in Pennsylvania, Crooked, Pennsylvania, could do the very same. Of course, because in Pennsylvania, they seem to fix elections and all that other fun stuff. That seems to what happened over there. And we've seen that, and we'll likely try to see another attempt of that in a coming election near you in pick your favorite swing state. All this stuff reeks of dirty business. Remember, folks, they're universities. They're not businesses per se. They have a right to a profit. Private universities certainly have that ability, and to keep their books private. Public universities have what? Taxpayer money. So if you're going to have this kind of a situation, you need employees, and guess what? The constituency of the state will vote upon that anyway, so they're not employees of the universities. And that case that I mentioned is going to get flushed down the toilet. They're trying to go after USC because they're a public or private institution, and they're going to go after that. But at the end of the day, they're not going to win, and that's that. Point is, don't cheat the system, because the system's not going to cheat you. And at the end of the day, these are universities, folks, and they are student athletes, students first. That's going to do it for the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal. We'll see you next time right here on your favorite station. So long, everyone.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.